BP builds. We're going to be taking the motor out of this 91 Dodge Colt and freshening it up. Come with us on the journey. We'll show you step by step on how to. Motor, this car. First thing we're going to do is we're going to drain the fluids. Oh. This way when we drain the fluid, we're not going to leak anything when we pull the axles out. While we're letting the transmission fluid drain, we're going to take the wheels off. Another thing we're doing is we're draining the oil filter just to get more of the oil out, and we're going to try to drain the oil cooler as well. Try to keep it as neat as possible when we're taking this car apart. Alright guys, so here's some neat things. Now that we drained the oil out of our oil filter and we disconnected our oil cooler lines, you can just zip tie these up to get them out of the way. Put the oil filter back on, that way you're not going to have any leaks while you are working on the car. So you can just put this up there. Some of the things we're going to do is we're going to disconnect the slave cylinder. We're probably going to disconnect the downpipe. Probably take the whole exhaust off. We want to get these axle shafts out of the transmission, so we're going to disconnect the knuckles, swing them down. Ultimately, we're going to be reusing these knuckles again on that car because these knuckles are Expo knuckles, so they have a slightly bigger brake setup than what's factory, and they make it so that you don't have to worry as much about your bump steer if you were to put like Talon knuckles on. So it allows you to run a slightly bigger brake, and what we'll do is we'll put that on. You know, if we don't like it, we'll end up going to the 5 lug or something later. But alright, so we got the slave cylinder off. 2 12mm bolts that went right through and that way. We got the oil cooler line zip tied up, and we got the downpipe removed. So there were I think we had 2 17mm bolts going through. Factory uses stud with some nuts, whether they're 17s or 19s, I'm not sure, but you can see some carbon deposit on the flange and even on the gasket. That's indicative of an exhaust leak, so we definitely weren't sealing well enough, so I'll probably look into that next time. So I'm going to keep going. I'll get these axles out. I think typically I get rid of these cotter pins, and I think I have an 1.25" socket that I use for this. Okay, axles are out. On the passenger side, we actually had to disconnect the steering tie rod to get enough clearance for us to pull the axle out of the transmission, slide it up on top of the transmission, and then pull it through the knuckle and then out. The opposite side, there were 2 14mm bolts by the AC compressor above the oil pan, and then you had to take out the 2 17mm bolts on the strut, and that's pretty much it. Once you get the axle nut off, they pretty much just pull right out. Here they are right over here. Top one is the driver's side, bottom one is the passenger side. Now we're going to start ripping some stuff out of the engine bay. We'll start with taking the mass airflow sensor, the air intake. We'll disconnect the intercooler piping, all the fuel going to the fuel rail, probably the J-pipe, and some of our transmission linkages. The speedometer cable, upper transmission mount. We'll disconnect our motor mounts, and this thing should be pretty pretty simple to pull, so let's go. So on this J-pipe, it's a pain in the ass to get. It's a pain to get this bolt because whoever designed it didn't leave enough clearance to get a wrench around the whole circumference of the bolt. Let alone the other bolt, you can't even see. So when I do the next J-pipe, I'm going to use a smaller diameter tube. It's going to flare out to a larger diameter, and it's actually going to allow you to access the bolt with a socket straight on. So we'll see how that goes. Alright, so here's where we are. We got rid of a couple more intercooler piping down low and up top. Took off the lower radiator hose, and I thought I wouldn't be able to get this pipe off until I was able to swing a wrench getting the radiator out. Turns out it's the other way around. I can't get the radiator out until I get this pipe out. So, just gotta take it one turn at a time. Alright, so we're ready to drop the transmission. Check out our channel for the other video where I dropped the transmission out of a 90 Eagle Talon. So on this car, I just fast forward it. This is the most important part. If you suspend a little bit of preloaded weight on the transmission to pull it upwards, you can undo the top bolts from the transmission to the motor, and you should be able to pull this off gently and lower it all the way down to the ground. So we'll see. Let's give it a shot and see how it goes. Piece of cake. So because we're going to need to take this motor and put it on an engine stand, we're going to have to take the clutch and flywheel off. So while we're down here, we're going to take off the front motor mount bolt, the rear motor mount bolt, and the plan is to take the whole engine straight up and out. So let's get to it. Not bad. We were actually running a 6-puck setup, which completely forgot about, but it really didn't change the drivability that much between this and the street disc. It's a sprung 6-puck, so that's probably why. And it still looks like it has some pretty good life on it, but we'll have to measure that and verify. There's actually quite a bit of pressure on those, so we'll leave the bolts in, and when we take the pressure off, we can slide them out. Since we can already see the heater hose lines from down here, we'll just take them off right here. Oh boys, I rusted. Valve rust, huh? Nasty. If your car air conditioning. Well, since we know we're probably going to change the fuel filter, we might as well break the fitting here and disconnect the other line here. A couple wires holding in the harness. We'll probably unbolt the harness and take that off. So. Surprisingly enough, you can actually get this motor mount on Rock Auto, as far as I believe. Still, specifically for the 4G61T. Previous video we used the 4G63T and the motor is a little cocked. This one actually straightens it out quite a bit. Take some of the weight off, and you should be able to just push this bolt just by hand, and that way you should be able to get this motor mount off. It's always good to put the nuts back where you found them, just in case you need them. Just like that. The harness has to disconnect from the motor. We got to take everything from the cam sensor all the way, throttle position sensor, to the injectors. Boost gauge disconnected, coil pack disconnected, and we've also got a transistor pack down there that we have to disconnect. It looks like a pain in the butt. Just like how the cam sensor has a metal clip on it, the fuel injectors are supposed to have the clips on them, but they don't. There you go. That's off. I think, ladies and gentlemen, I think that's it. Now that that's off. Should come out. The only thing we've got to be worried about is the AC compressor. Just start lifting this up. Let me swing that out of the way. Actually, it looks like kind of it's up there. Sorry, that might be on. The badge coming out. There she is, ladies and gentlemen. The 4G63 is out of the Colt. A little bit. Looks like enough room with this hood to get it out. Looks like we still got a knock sensor connected. Take care of that real quick. Alright, disconnected. And now, we're good to go. Put this thing on the engine stand. But I think we're going to call it a wrap for today. Put this on the stand and see you in the next part of the series where we break this engine down and start cleaning it up before we put it in the next Colt. That one right there. Subscribe if you haven't already. Thanks guys. Thanks for watching.